Hey everybody, welcome to Gong of Thrones, episode 7. Just kidding. This is Gong Labs Live. I am your host, Devin Reed
Chris Orlob.
And what we're doing today, as we do every single week at Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific, is bringing you about 20 to 30 minutes of tips, tricks, and insights to help you as a sales professional be as effective as possible, make more money, and climb to the top. Over to you.
Couple housekeeping items. Make sure you follow Gong on LinkedIn. We already have almost 10,000 of you tuning in for these episodes and following Gong to stay up to date with these episodes. That's actually how you get the notification. We do this every Thursday at 10 a.m. And so you don't miss future episodes, make sure you follow Gong. You'll get the LinkedIn notification. You won't miss anything. If you're a returning viewer, so let me actually give a little bit of a hint as to what we're talking about today. I know you wanted to mainly talk about that, but we'll get there in a second.
I'm impartial. Go for it.
We are going to be talking about time management techniques for sales professionals and how they can use time management techniques to skyrocket their income. So the reason I gave you that little hint is if you have friends, and I know salespeople are people, I know you know a lot of other salespeople. If you have friends that you think should be tuning in for time management training for sales professionals, tag them in the comments. Write those comments right now. Let's get more eyeballs on this because it's going to be insanely helpful. And last housekeeping item before we actually get into the show is we've gotten a lot of good ideas from people recommending topics for us to discuss on these shows, and we're actually highly considering a lot of them. So we want to crowdsource more of those ideas. You can either write them in the comments or you can email Devin and I directly. Our email is gonglabs@gong.io. So that's GONGLABS at GONG.io. I didn't know I could spell that well.
Yeah, that's a tough
gonglabs@gong.io. Email us your feedback. Email us any potential topic ideas that you want us to discuss in the future. And I will pass the torch back to you for a second.
So before we dive into time management, we'll take a quick second to recap last episode. So last week we talked about multi-threading, a really interesting and complex topic. And the feedback was really amazing. And we offered out some templates for folks that wanted to learn to master multi-threading.
Email templates, amazingly effective email templates that Devin has used super successfully.
Yeah, so if you raise your hand and you use them, give us a shout, let us know how they go, use the email. And if not, you can still jump in templates now. I'll give another week. I'll jump in here after the next day or two.
You're signing yourself up for some work.
But the best part is that dozens of people raised their hand, and really what it showed is there's people from all angles of sales, from closers, sales development, senior managers, enablement, high tech, low tech, ops, no tech. And it was great to see this community coming together. It's all these people tuning in weekly, catching it on demand, and investing in yourselves to be, again, as successful as possible, which is what it's all about. And so we've had tens of thousands of people tune into Gong Labs Live, and we're only on episode 7. So I want to say a big thank you. And we're creating this community called Gong Tribe. You're a member now. We're tribal members. This is what we're doing.
There's no initiation process. You just have to watch us talk and implement what we teach you, hopefully.
It's that simple. So we're a crew now.
I can't believe we said no tech at the same time just a minute ago. We didn't even plan that. That was great.
We hang out frequently.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about time management and specifically how to leverage it to make more money. Time is a salesperson's most valuable asset. And hey, they say time is money for a reason. And so when he's done with that sip of water, he's got some great ideas.
That was a poorly timed sip on my part.
I'll buy you another second. If you are tuning in right now, do you plan your day in advance? So the audience, let us know in the comments section if this is something, hey, yes, I'm planning daily, maybe even weekly, or if you're saying, you know what, I kind of just show up, I show out, and I do my thing.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I have the intention to plan my day in advance every single day, but I only nail it about 3 out of 5 days of the week, 3 out of 5 work days. You know, I always anticipate that at 8 p.m. I'm going to plan the next day, and 3 days of the week I actually do it. And then when I wake up the next day, I can just wake up and execute.
Right. Yep.
But there are some days where you just get really tired, and you're like, you know what, screw it. I'll do it in the morning, and then the next day just kind of goes into this downward spiral.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to talk about that I did this week is on Sunday I invested 90 minutes in planning basically every minute of my entire work week that was coming up.
Down to the minute.
So almost down to the minute. I mean, there's a little bit of slack time in there. So I had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all of the tasks I was gonna do, all of the scheduled priorities. best 90 minutes I've spent all week.
Nice.
I haven't had to plan my day every day because it's already done. And this week has been insanely productive because I just wake up every day and I execute. I don't have to think about it. That part's already been done.
Love that.
So.
And Chris is masterful when it comes to time management, even though he doesn't respond to Slack. Texting, you're getting better at.
That's why I'm good at time management, is I'm bad at Slack. You got to choose one or the other.
The volume of Slack
or you good at time management.
Yeah, the volume of Slack can become a problem. So Chris, tell me, what are some of the effective time management principles and techniques that you use, aside from the Sunday prep time?
I think the number one thing you need to know about time management is, or at least implement about time management, is working in long, interrupted quantum leaps of time.
Quantum leaps. That reminds me of Ant-Man. What does quantum leap mean to you here?
When you have something to do that's like cognitively demanding, like writing a proposal or prospecting, the worst way you can get that task done is to do it in dribs and drabs. 15 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes there. The most effective
your focus
people,
all the time.
But there's a big price you're paying with context switching. I've read somewhere, and this isn't like proven, just research this if you want to validate it.
Sure.
But I read somewhere that it takes like 22 minutes for your brain to actually get attuned to a task. And when you're interrupted, you have to start over.
Yeah.
So the first thing is plan your day so you have long quantum stretches of time. And I know in sales that's not always realistic because you're going to have your calendar fragmented by a bunch of like client meetings and customer meetings. But there is a corollary to this, and it is batching your miscellaneous tasks, like the death by 1,000 cuts things. Put those into a single time burst. So the way I see most salespeople, and not just salespeople, but professionals in general, deal with the small tasks that they have to do throughout the day, is they'll scatter them. And it completely fragments your time, it completely fragments your attention. So make yourself a list, say do it at from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock every day, where you get all of that stuff done at once. You just knock it down. All of your post-call follow-up emails, all of your responses.
The task-based things, the smaller.
The really small, almost not even overly valuable stuff. Post-call emails are a good example. They're really valuable, but a poor way to approach that from a time management perspective is, let's say you have 4 calls in a day and you have to write a post-call email for each one. The poor way to do that is you have the call, you write the email, you send it. You get on your next call, you write the post-call email, you send it. The right way to do it is take all of those 4 emails you have to send. Don't send them after each call, but block off an hour for you to just get all of those done at once.
I try that. Yeah, I might have to test that out, because I know sometimes I do it right after the call, but sometimes if I have time or if it's really fresh, and then sometimes I'm 8 meetings today, there's no way I'm gonna have time to slot in an email, context switch to the next meeting because I'm prepping, and then going back and forth, getting lunch and going back. So I think I'm gonna try that out. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Something else that I do as a salesperson is I do calendar blocking. And so what that means is I have my meetings with clients, maybe some internal meetings. Those are things that are obviously a must. And then I also start to block it based on these tasks. And we'll get into what they are specifically and how to prioritize. But what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey, from 1 to 2 p.m., I'm going to focus on my Q2 pipeline. And you have to commit to it. And that's really key, is I'm not putting the time on there just to block it off or to seem busy to my boss, though that is an added benefit sometimes. It's really to say, hey, I'm prioritizing this thing. I'm going to get it done. And where it becomes more challenging than just doing it in the first place is someone will come up to you. It could be a client. It could be an internal colleague saying, hey, can I book you at 1:30? I have something I want to go over. And at that time is you're kind of at an inflection point where you need to be disciplined and say, you know what, I would love to do that, but I can't at this time. I have something else I have to do. Let's look at a different slot, maybe a different day.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Well, you got to maintain the integrity of the system, and I know you and I talked about this a lot before we got on this meeting, is if you block off your calendar, make sure you're actually going to do something with it. Because if you get into that habit where you block off your calendar, but you start to not treat it very seriously, then people, and you start allowing people to encroach on your calendar, then you can just say yes, and the whole system,
falls apart.
The whole system just falls apart from
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
All right. So to the audience, what's the hardest part of time management for you? Put that in the comment section. We like to hear it. If we see some good ones we can address, we'll definitely make sure to do so in a couple days. Or excuse me, in a couple minutes. For you, how do you approach prioritization? Because I think the way I view it is prioritization is the strategic leg of it. It's figuring out what matters most and putting it at the top, and then time management is more of the execution of it,
tactics,
right?
Yeah.
So how do you approach prioritization?
I think about prioritization in a few different ways, and I'll start with the sales specific one. And I didn't invent this concept. This comes from Miller Hyman. I think I'm going to describe it in my own terms. But Miller Hyman, which is like a sales training organization, they wrote the book, The New Strategic Selling. They talk about how you've basically got 3 tasks as a sales professional that you need to juggle. You've got your top of the funnel stuff that's like filling your pipeline. You've got your middle of the funnel stuff that's like managing your pipeline. And then you've got your stuff that's at the end and is on the verge of closing.
Got it.
They say that most sales professionals, and this is the wrong way to do it, but most sales professionals prioritize the middle as the first thing because it's the easiest. It's the middle of your pipeline, it's the scheduled calls,
Right.
and then they go to closing calls or stuff that's at the bottom, and then they go to prospecting.
Yeah.
The problem is if you put prospecting at the very end of those 3 priorities, it almost never gets done.
Right.
You're going to punt it
Easy to
until
push
tomorrow.
it off. Yeah, you're tired. Your mental bandwidth is spent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The way they recommend prioritizing those 3 buckets is first your closing stuff. The stuff
Absolutely.
that is on the verge of closing, that's your number 1 priority every day. You should spend your day as close to cash as possible. That's what they say.
I always believe that.
Second priority is then filling your funnel. You prioritize prospecting over the stuff that's in the middle of your pipeline because the stuff in the middle of your pipeline is going to get done. It's already scheduled, or you just know at a gut level.
Prospects are going to pull you in that direction. They say, hey, I need time with you to do this.
Exactly.
They're going to request something from you. So that's kind of natural flow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you prioritize prospecting above that because if you put, like I said, if you put prospecting at the bottom of your priority list, it just won't get done. So that's the first way I think about it.
Sure.
I also have another way I think about prioritizing that I learned from a book called 80-20 Sales and Marketing. And he has this template where it's 4 columns, and each column is labeled $10 an hour tasks, $100 an hour tasks, $1,000 an hour tasks, and $10,000 an hour tasks.
I need to find some of those ladder tasks.
And of course, like very few of us make $10,000 an hour. The actual dollar amounts don't really matter. It's more so bucketing your tasks in each one of those categories and trying to stick in the $10,000 an hour and $1,000 an hour tasks. Because what most people don't understand is, let's say you're a sales rep and you make $200,000 a year. That's $100 an hour if you work 8 hours a day, which most of us probably don't. But for sake of argument, let's say you make $200,000 a year, or $200,000 a year, $100 an hour on average.
Sure.
It is a massive misconception to assume that every hour you work is actually worth $100.
So not all valued the same. Some things are more important, some things are significantly less important.
Well, what's probably the case is you spend like 7 hours of the day on $10 an hour tasks or $100 an hour tasks, like lower value stuff, but you make up for it by spending like 1 hour every day on $1,000 and $10,000 per hour tasks. So I would recommend you actually make that table, just like open up a spreadsheet and start writing all of your tasks in each of those buckets and commit to spending more of your time, not all of your time, but more of your time in the higher income per hour tasks.
I like
One other thing I would say is, and I know very few people will actually do this, if you're at a point in your life where you are making $100 per hour or more, you owe it to yourself to get yourself an assistant of some sort, to get rid of like the manual, just lower value tasks. You can afford it at that point, and your income over time, it's an investment.
I like it. I like that idea, yeah. All right, so folks in the audience, we'd like to hear your time management tips. So if there's something that maybe we haven't covered and you're like, hey, I've got this ace up my sleeve, share it so other folks tuning in can take a look. Or if you're not doing it currently, but you have any other questions based on what we covered today, go ahead and put in the comments section. Our producer will make sure that we see them and we'll answer them in a few minutes here. And so we hit kind of the last scene, if you will, is what are the most common time management mistakes that people make?
I think one of them is multitasking.
What do you mean? I can do 2 things at once all the time.
People think it is a braggable skill that they're good at multitasking. that is not a skill worth bragging about, because the human brain is not wired to multitask. It is wired to single task. It is wired where your most productive work time will be spent on figuring out something cognitively demanding over a stretch of 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah.
So trying to do several things at once, or just letting interruptions come inbound while you're trying to do something that's really challenging, that's a massive mistake. I have this reputation internally at Gong where I'm really bad at Slack, I'm pretty bad at email, and I actually don't pride myself on that. I actually do have to get better. But one of the reasons I am bad about it is I turn off the notifications and I don't check email and I turn off my phone during certain stretches of time where I'm trying to get something done. That's why you don't text
me back. I was wondering what's going on there.
Now, I need to get better about closing the loop and batching the responses toward the peripheries of my day, where it's from 4 to 5 p.m. or 4 to 6 p.m. every day. I go back and respond to all the Slacks and the emails and the text messages and that kind of stuff. But a big mistake is multitasking, and then its kind of sister mistake, which is allowing interruptions during productive time.
Right.
So that's one mistake.
It's fun to tease you on Slack, but I've noticed it too as our company grew. I started to think I was around employee 40, 50. For about the first year, I could answer every Slack pretty much immediately. There wasn't enough
It was
volume.
novel. You're ooh, I'm needed.
Yeah, Slack was new, it was nice. Now that we're at, 150-ish employees, I think?
170, I think, something like that.
Slack always has something. When I get off these episodes, there's just multiple channels waiting for me, a couple people. Yeah. I have to push that off sometimes. So if Gongsters, if you're watching, I apologize. I still love you, but hey, gotta manage. All right, well, that's pretty much it. Are you familiar by chance? We got a question. This sounds very, it's kind of a comment though. This sounds very similar to the concept of deep work. Are you familiar with deep work?
Yes, I'm surprised it didn't come up. Deep Work is one of my favorite books of all time.
Fantastic. You want to plug it for 60 seconds?
Yeah, so and I'm not even gonna talk about the book, I'll just talk about the concept. So the concept of deep work is working on something cognitively demanding for a long stretch of time, similar to what we've been talking about. The thesis of the book fascinates me. It says deep work, the skill of working deeply on something, is becoming more valuable economically at the same time in history that it's becoming more rare for people to actually be able to do.
Yeah.
So the economic rewards in the future for people who can do deep work and go deeply on building a business strategy or writing or cognitively demanding stuff, they're the ones that are going to be the winners in tomorrow's economy, because it's becoming more valuable and more rare at the same time. By more rare, it's because everybody's distracted with social
things going
media.
On. It's easier to,
social media is an incredibly valuable tool if it's used correctly, which I would argue we're using it correctly right now, sharing knowledge.
Right.
But most people literally develop an addiction to social media.
The thumb scroll. I call it the thumbs up scroll. You just constantly look at the
I bet this pattern of behavior resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah.
They have something on their to-do list. They start doing that thing for about 10 minutes, and then they check their triangle of stuff. Yeah. They check their email, they check Slack, they check Facebook, they check LinkedIn, and after they go through that cycle, they get about 10 more minutes of productive time, and they go back. It's like an OCD, electronic loop that you just go throughout the day, and it absolutely slaughters your productivity.
My iPhone lets me know that I'm killing time on Instagram. It lets me know that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that pretty much is it for today. We do have a key takeaway though, and you mentioned it earlier. Chris Orlob has a time management matrix. Does it include Keanu Reeves?
It does not include Keanu Reeves. I did not get the digital version of Keanu. But yes, the time management matrix, it's actually called the sales management matrix, and it's basically a time management module specifically built for sales managers and aspiring sales managers. And it helps you understand how to prioritize the different tasks and responsibilities you would have as a sales manager. So if you're interested in getting that without filling out a landing page or anything like that, we have a 13-minute video that goes with it teaching you how to use it. And then we have 2 downloadable templates. One of them is filled out already so that it's just kind of an idea generator.
Sure.
And one of them is blank and it's editable and you can fill it out yourself. So if that's interesting to you, tag a friend below in the comments right now, and we will be sure to send that out either today, worst case scenario, tomorrow we'll get to you.
Awesome. All right, well, quick update. Next week, we will not be having an episode of Gong Labs Live. There's good reason.
Why?
Why? I will be on site closing the largest deal of my career, which is also the longest sales cycle of my career, which will be my wedding. I'm getting married next weekend. Thank you very much. Chris Orlob, as much as he'd love to take the show, he'll be there.
Background.
He's going to be at the wedding, so we're not going to be there. But If you're a fan and you haven't seen every episode of Gong Labs live, you have at least 6 episodes waiting for you. So next week, you've got something you can consume there. And don't forget to follow Gong on LinkedIn. So our producer's gonna drop in the link right now. You can click that, jump over there, click follow. You'll get a notification in 2 weeks when we go live next time. I think that's it for us.
That's everything.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time.